Happy Saturday, everybody, and welcome to day number 13 in what will be my final Ancient Inheritance video for season number 4. In this video, we're just going to cover spam killing the priest. So I'll go over 8 different teams that I use to fight the priest. Now, we still haven't taken him down yet. He's got a little bit of health left, so I should be able to go in and knock him the rest of the way down, and we can start working on the final iteration of the priest. But before we get started with that, I had one little piece of loot left to take. Now, I had intended to kill the monster standing there, but it looks like Lucina took it out, so I wandered over, grabbed the chest, and bought the very last thing in the exchange. So I've completely bought out the shop. All my levels are maxed out. The only thing I have left to do is fight the priest. Now, he only has a little bit of health left, so I'm not going to use my best team. I just made mages, so I'm going to try out auxiliary lots, even though he's only level 11. Hopefully he can keep swinging. I'll use Destina for a healer. Lilibet is my debuffer. And I need a stripper, so I'll use Mediator Kawerik. I did swap around artifacts a little bit. I put Cradle of Life on Kawerik for additional debuff chances. On Lilibet, I went ahead and gave her Junkyard Dog for more debuffs. Wanted to make sure that I got past that wipe phase. I put Shimadra Staff on Destina to help boost her healing a little bit. And aLots I've got on SpiritsBreath so he can cycle his skill. Now, you may have already noticed it. I didn't notice it until I hit start, but I forgot to bring a defense breaker. And because of the lack of defense breaker, even though this team performs very, very well, I got a very pitiful score at the end. So really, any DPS other than Lilibet who has a defense break in her kit would have been better here. Probably could have taken Green Euphine even and done a substantially higher score.
Don't be afraid.
But moving beyond that, we do the best we can. There's not a lot of health left on the boss, so I should be able to beat it in 2, maybe 3 entries. Since there's no chance for a defense break, I might as well just push buttons and rack up whatever score I can. If you get a bleed off of Lilibet's S2, she gets 100% CR push, so she can take another hit. So it's a 2 hits in 1 action without needing a burn, which is kind of nice on her, especially when you have a debuff artifact on her. Is really nice for stacking buffs. And aLots has proved to be really nice for this, to be able to constantly cycle the damage dealers and increase the damage output.
To restore balance.
I saved Kawerik's S3 to get rid of the defense break and the seal debuff. I'm going to go ahead and S2 auxiliary lots just to top him off a little bit, and because he'll be able to push Lilibet up again.
Foolish.
Now remember, you want the 50% CR push EE on Destina if you plan to use her. Pushes in this fight are very valuable.
You disgusting punks. I'll get rid of you all. I'll cut you into pieces.
I got the bleed, so she'll CR push and get an extra turn. That skill cycles so fast, you can use it as often as you like. It'll as long as you make sure it's ready for round 5, you should be good, but I'm able to use it twice before round 5. It cycles so much, especially with lots pushing. Now, Lots is pretty hurt here, but Destina should cut, even with this hit. Just in case, I'm going to use her S3 to get some damage, but I think Destina should cut and be able to heal us up here. And she does. I've got to use the S3. I need a big heal. I think if I soul burn the S1, it might heal enough, but I want to have my soul burns going into stage 5 so that Lilibet has 2 chances to stack debuffs. Okay, so I just need 3 debuffs. I can't use the S2 because I need to use that to remove the counterattack on the next round. So Kawerik did not proc his 75% chance Cradle of Life again.
Now's my time to shine.
Push Lilibet up.
You can't stop me.
She'll do her S2, which hopefully gives us a bleed. So we got 1 bleed. And we got 1 burn, and we got buff block. Buff block's fantastic. I don't have to worry about stripping the counterattack because the buff block debuff will keep the counterattack buff from popping up. I think I have to push up Destina or aLots is going to die, even with the 3 debuffs.
I'm strong.
Now I'm going to chance it. This doesn't hit very hard, so I'm going to go ahead and chance it. I should have pushed Destina up. Oh well. aLots did his job. Might as well get the attack break and shields on everybody because there was no counter to strip because of the buff block capability. So if you have any units that have buff block on them, really nice to go into that. Really nice debuff to go into that 6th stage to prevent the counter attack buff from proccing. So nothing left to do but ride this out. I'll just spam the damage attacks, S2s and S3s, using Kawerik to cleanse and give attack buffs, and take it right up to the end. All things considered, this was a fantastic team. If only I had brought a defense breaker, it would have done really well. But because of my lack of defense break, it only scored 875k damage, which is not nearly enough to push the priest, or to kill the priest and push to the next priest. So I need to take a better scoring team this time. So I need to make sure I've got a defense breaker on the team for sure this time. I'll go ahead and use green lots because the CR pushing was great. I'll take Helga. She's a great source of defense break and she's got a lot of buffs, including a speed buff. I'll use Luna. Luna does tremendous damage and her S3 is another chance at a defense break. And I will use Chloe. You know, Chloe's got Magic Nail. It's a guaranteed debuff, so this team should score a lot better than the last one. I put Chloe on Junkyard Dog for chance of debuffs. I've got Lots on Doctor's Bag so that he can have some form of cleanse in his kit. I put Cradle of Life on Helga for additional damage, and on and Luna's on JackoSymbol for maximum damage into those debuffs. Now, I want to save his Doctor's Bag style cleanse, so I'm just going to use the S1 here and try to get an attack break.
It's me!
And this skill cycle's so fast, so I'm going to go ahead and use her S2 and establish Magic Nail, and that will help assist with damage a bit.
Underestimate me at your own risk.
There's no real reason to attack here. I'll use the S3 to get buffs on everybody.
Ridiculous.
And I'm going to use Luna's S3 for a defense break. Now, as long as defense break is in place, a soul burn to S1 on Luna will do more damage than her S3.
And everyone will be like, boom, gone.
Now, when Magic Nail is up, Chloe's S3 hits remarkably hard, 137k damage from that.
I'll beat you to a pulp.
What should I do?
Again, I'm just going to S1 with Lots so that I can use his S3 so that Doctor's Bag will proc and cleanse off some of these debuffs. And good lord, I took a lot of debuffs.
Look at me.
Come at me! Don't let him get away! On my way!
Nice dual attack.
Chloe's on her way! Leave it to me!
Another nice dual attack.
I'm a little nervous about
Okay, Lots, let's see that S3, and hopefully Doctor's Bag cleanses most of this stuff off.
not long left now.
It left the defense breaks. Ouch.
Don't be scared.
Okay, I survived the defense breaks, so not in terrible shape now.
I will shatter you.
The seal on Luna is actually kind of bad. Her passives are her stats, so if you seal it, she loses a lot of stats.
I feel a lot better now.
I'll push Luna up, get another big hit off here. I'm hoping that Helga can survive into the next phase.
Ready to get hit?
I use the S2 for a defense break.
It's me!
Wow, Helga lived, hanging in there like a champ. Okay, so I need 3 debuffs to proceed, so there's Magic Nail, that's a guaranteed one, so that gives me 1 debuff. Hopefully we get my artifact to proc here,
Explosion!
I'll try my
and it does not proc. And I got the attack buff. Oh, nuts. And everybody wiped because I only got 2 debuffs up. You know, to be fair, I forgot to bring a stripper, so I was going to die the next round anyway, but even though that team performed miserably, I still got 1.05 million out of it, so anything over a million is a really worthwhile team. Now the boss just has a sliver of health left, and I'm done messing around. I'll take a really, really good team to knock it out of the park and make sure that we clear and push on to the next phase. So it's time to bring out Achates. She's one of the best healers for this. I'm going to use Inferno Khawazu. He's loaded with debuffs, and he's got a guaranteed strip on his S3. I'm going to take Fire Khawazu. He's my source of defense breaks. And I'm going to take Sinful Angelica for attack buff, speed buff, and dual attacks. I put Sinful Angelica on Prophetic Candlestick to help cycle her skills. Inferno Khawazu and Khawazu I've got on debuffing artifacts, and I put Achates on Unfading Memories to help boost healing even higher. Now this is a very stable team as long as we can get the debuffs, but I'm so loaded with debuffs we should be in good shape.
Can become your light.
With Prophetic Candlestick up, there's no reason to hold Singelica's skills, that she should be on constant S3 cycling. It's early in the fight. I got plenty of time to build the strip back up, so I'll use Inferno Khawazu's S3 to get some damage on the board. Nobody to heal, so I'll S1 for an attack break, which I got. And I'll use the S3 here. It gives me unhealable and decreased defense. I'm doing it mostly for the decreased defense. Stuck the decreased defense, and now I'll just spam some damage.
Can I go home after I kill this one? I won't lose.
So you can see debuffs should be no problem. I've got so many debuffers on the board. I got strong source of healing. I'm pretty confident in this team.
Anybody hates getting hurt.
Now Achates can cleanse all of those debuffs, including the seal, off.
Vitality, rush forth.
The weak have no place in this world.
I want to save the S3 because I need it next round to strip the counter buff.
Everyone, keep it up.
Please.
And Singelica's S3 is ready again. That's what I meant by the Candlestick keeps her on permanent S3 cycling, so she should never lose her immortality. Okay, so now I just need to stick 2 debuffs. I'll go ahead and use the S1. Did not get the attack break, unfortunate. I'll use the S1 here, see if I can get an artifact to proc. In fact, I'll burn it. 2 chances for the artifact to proc. And it did not proc. Those are just his natural 1-turn burns. Okay, I got a blind, so that's 1 debuff. I need 2 debuffs out of Khawazu. And I got 1. I got defense break. He didn't proc unhealable, and he didn't proc his artifact.
After I kill this one.
My team that had the most debuffers on it, and I couldn't stick 2 debuffs. This is a disaster. This team would have cleared. I think this team would have cleared and killed the priest easily, but oh man. So I got wiped with a pathetic score of 809,000. Okay, so we'll take 1 more team in. The boss just has a sliver of health. I want to save my best units for the next round priest. I've got 4 really good teams waiting in the wings that I can use on the priest. And, well, 3 really good teams and 1 team that I'm semi-confident about. So I'm just going to stick some raw damage dealing in there. I'm going to use Achates to slow his CR pushing. Achates also has a buff block, so that'll keep the counterattack buff from going up. I'll use Shu for damage. Hopefully I get some procs. I'll use Momo for healing, and I'll use Jacko for some raw damage. Jacko proccing her S1 into her S2 does quite a bit of damage. Once again, I did not bring a defense breaker, but there's so little health left on the priest, I don't think it'll be a problem. This team should easily push all the way to the end and take the last 500k of health I think this thing has on it off. So I'll use this S3 on Jacko. It'll give her an attack buff, and it's got a defense pen built into it, so it'll get some extra damage, even without a defense break. 50k damage. It's not as much as I thought.
It's time for the finale of this little puppet show.
So there's the buff block I was talking about. That'll keep him from getting an attack buff next round, and we'll be able to use that again on the stage 5 for debuffs, and to keep him from proccing the counterattack buff. I have counter set on both Shu and on Achates for extra damage.
You do not understand. Wait! Is it
I
my
definitely need to S3 Achates or she's gonna die.
Even if it's just a little. I really want to help. Want me to take care of that?
I'm just doing the S1 on Shu, hoping that I get the proc. I did. Having all three of these units on counters paid off nicely.
I will do my best. It's going to
Top the healing off. I'm a little worried about Achates. She needs to live into the next round so that I can get buff block up. And her health is very, very low. Oh no. Well, that's ruined. I think this would have worked really well if I had gotten a, maybe if I put Proof of Valor on Achates. That would probably have been a really good idea. I did not get any debuffs off of Jacko. It's like I don't even have these debuff artifacts up. I got one off of Shu, but it's not enough, so I would have wiped anyway, even if Achates had survived. I can't believe the priest is still alive. This team, which I thought would do really well, didn't even clear 500k. It's like 480k damage. So now I have to use one of my good teams, unfortunately. So, just to make sure it's done, I'll take Alencia. She's got a defense break, and then I'll take 2 extreme damage dealers. Fire Sirmia, make sure she's on her S1 EE so she gets the chance to double proc her S1. I'm going to use Sigrid for her stacking of debuffs and also damage, and I'll use Amelia for my healer. I got Junkyard Dog on Alencia, I got JackoSymbol on Sirmia, I got Cradle of Life on Sigrid, and on Amelia I put Unfading Memories just for the extra healing because she's kind of a weak healer on her own. Really wanted to save this team to take into the priest next round, but may as well just use it here. I guess I could have waited for somebody else in the guild to finish off the priest, but yeah, I wanted to get this done. So Alencia has got just about everything you need in one unit. She's got a defense break, and she's got a strip. If you put Cradle of Life on her, she's got the debuffs as well, but Alencia plus any other debuffer and a healer is a great 3-man team. The 4th unit can be a flex pick. You can use another debuffer, another damage dealer, a dual attack unit. I went ahead and used Sirmia for extra damage. And just like that, the priest is down. So although this team only did 500k damage, that's because there was only 500k damage left on the boss. This team could easily have pushed triple that. Easily a 1.5 to 2 million damage team. So the Awakened Priest is dead, and now we have the Revived Priest. Well, I've only got 2 good teams and 1 team that I'm just kind of toying with left. I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel for units, but I did save the best for last, so this is my second best team. We'll start with Camilla. She's my defense breaker and dual attacker, and she does pretty good damage in her own right. I'll use Kitty Clarissa for even more dual attacks. That's right, this is a dual attack spam team. I'm going to use DN for an attack buffer to keep Camilla doing her thing, and I'm going to use Commander Lorena. She's got self-pushing and she does tremendous damage. Since the priest is brand new and well above 50% health, I can use Portrait of the Saviors. I've got DN on Unfading Memories because she needs to have some form of healing, and I've got Kitty and Camilla both on debuff artifacts to help me get past that 3 debuffs required phase. Now, because DN only has a real minor cleansing capability, I'm just going to save Kitty Clarissa for right now because I want to be able to use her transformation to cleanse the seal and defense break off of everybody. I've got to be a little bit careful. This is the 3rd iteration of the priest. Hits really, really hard, and I don't think I can make it with defense breaks. The anti-crit will help. This gives Camilla the attack buff she needs to dual attack. She does stick the defense break. Commander Lorena, I'll just jump right in with the S3, both to generate souls and to generate damage. 163k damage in 1 hit, not bad. Now everybody's a little bit hurt, but not hurt enough to use her S2 skill yet. And since I didn't need the S2, I can use it for cleansing next round, so I'll go ahead and transform Kitty and get some dual attacks off. I need to rack up some points.
Destroying everything? Here! I'm ready. Brace yourselves, vile fiends. Holy flash!
DN can now S2 and cleanse most of those debuffs off. It left the defense break in place, but that's okay. Commander Lorena self-pushing whenever she takes a turn like this means she's going to cut and get her skill off again, and she'll be able to cycle that defense break off of herself. Not bad.
In the name of the goddess.
I'll cut your throat.
I'm going to use the S2 here. I could dual attack, but she would dual attack with Kitty since Kitty's got the highest attack with Camilla being attack broken. So S2 to put the attack break on Commander Lorena.
I'll do what I want. Meow.
And now we need to stack 5 debuffs. So far, no artifact proccing as per the norm.
Feel my might.
Burn this into some extra damage.
I will continue my training.
Let me demonstrate.
Now I really need some artifacts to proc here. So there's 1 debuff.
Brace yourselves, vile fiends.
I am not going to make it, am I? Nope. So died at the lack of debuff phase, but still 1.2 million. If I had gotten some artifacts to proc and landed more debuffs, this could have scored much higher, probably a 2.5 million team, but I wasn't careful about managing my debuffs, and I paid the price by dying at phase 5. So this is my best team. I'm going to use Fire Ken, who is arguably the best unit for Ancient Inheritance. He's got guaranteed defense break, loaded with debuffs, does great damage, can take extra turns. I'm going to use Conqueror Lilius. She's got a strip on her S3, she's got an attack buff, and Vigor can't be stripped, and she dual attacks. I'll use Euphine. She's got defense break, she's got 2 sources of strip on her S2 and her S3. She self-attack buffs, powerhouse unit. And I put the debuff artifacts on Lilius and Ken. On Euphine I put Portrait for damage, and I've got to use Angelica because I'm almost out of healers. But Angelica's a decent healer. Just make sure she has the EE that lets her cleanse when she does her S3, and give her Unfading Memories or Rod to help her with her healing a little bit.
Come, I'll take your life.
So Lilius is pretty fast and cycles her skills quickly, so there's no reason to not release the S3 right at the start of the fight. But the S2, you can't push the priest back, so just go straight into your S1 for dual attacks. Now as long as I don't dual attack with Angelica, we should be in great shape. Dual attack with Ken, I got 2 debuffs out there. I'll just S1 with Angelica because she doesn't really need to heal anybody. The counter set on Euphine paying off, I got a defense break. And we'll use her S2 skill for an attack and a speed buff. Now Ken's S2 is a guaranteed defense break. I've already got a defense break up, but I'm going to go ahead and use it just because it's really good damage.
If you wish to live.
I've been pretty good at dodging Angelica with the dual attacks, so this is going pretty well.
I want to retire already.
With her S3, I get rid of Seal, and more importantly, I put immunity on everybody, so I'm not going to take any poisons or attack breaks from the next couple of hits. Because the boss has an attack buff, I'll use Euphine's S3. That gives me a strip and does extra damage because I'm taking a buff out. And I'll use Ken's S3 because, again, it's great damage. He's got Vigor. This will also refresh Ken's Vigor.
I'll make you taste despair. The time has come.
Good.
Oh, it can't be helped.
I don't see any reason to heal here. Nobody's really that hurt, so I'm just going to S1.
See who's strong.
Didn't get a dual attack, but every little bit of damage helps. Oh, but I did get a dual attack off Euphine.
Obey if you wish to live. Focus.
Well, it had to happen sooner or later that I dual attack with Angelica.
Watch me.
Okay, so now we're at phase 5. I need to get 3 debuffs. There's 1. I got a defense break.
Come. I'll take your life.
Conqueror Lilius can use her S3, and this will put 2-turn attack buff up, so it'll stabilize the attack buff. Or attack buff, attack break.
Feel my soul.
And I just need 1 more debuff. Didn't get it with Cradle, but I got a Junkyard Dog to proc, thank goodness.
Let's have a go around.
So unfortunately I'm going to eat a counter attack here. I'm not going to burn it because I don't want to eat 2 counter attacks.
I'll show you.
And now Euphine's ready. She can soul burn her S2 or S3. That way if this doesn't strip, her S2's right behind it. It did strip though, and I think her S1 does more damage than her S2, so I'll use her S1 since I've already got attack buff
If you
up.
wish to live. Focus.
Don't worry.
And I lost Conqueror Lilius, unfortunately. I'm going to S2 Euphine. She's the most hurt, and Unfading will top everyone else off.
Oh, it can't be
Definitely use the S3 here to heal everybody up.
helped. In the name of the god.
And get immunity up to protect me from this next attack's debuffs. Oh, it strips. I forgot about that. So, I guess I will S2 here to get rid of the attack buff, give myself speed and attack buff. Even though Ken has lost his vigor and has got an attack break, Ken's an HP scaling unit, so he should still do pretty good damage from this attack. Another 45k.
I'll show you the dragon's power.
And it's the last round. I'm going to die after this hit anyway, so I may as well soul burn it for one last big burst of damage from Euphine. The soul burn will give her an extra attack, and she can go right into her S1. No defense breaks there at the end, but still. With a score of 3.5 million, that means this team did 2.26 million. So that's a really good team. To be able to do more than 2 million damage against the 3rd iteration of the Priest on floor 4 is phenomenal. I'm very happy with that score. Now I'm pretty much out of units, so we'll try Blaze Dingo. He'll be my defense breaker. Thinking about Terranor Guard. He's got a defense break too. You know, Batiste has got a defense break. He does an extra attack. He's loaded with buffs. And Doris, I think Doris with Blaze Dingo will be enough healing, but I don't have any strip. Oh, hey, you know what? Ed's got a strip. If I can get the boss to debuff him, he can strip. So I'll put Unfading Memories on Doris. I'll have Ed on Junkyard Dog. I'll have Batiste on Cradle of Life. And I have Blaze Dingo on Celestine for extra healing.
Now is the time for flames.
I don't see any reason to save this, so I'm going to use the S2 and try to get a defense break. It didn't even proc. 80% chance to defense break, I guess. Oh well. When Batiste gets a turn, I should get defense breaks up then. Put a counter set on Batiste, just grab random counter gear so that he could get extra hits in. I've got Ed on lifesteal because I'm a little bit worried about the healing capabilities of this team. I'm going to S1 for the blind because this is the round where the priest puts seal and defense break, and if he's blind it's just less chance that he hits. There's Batiste's S3 that gets me a defense break and an attack break. So attack break and blind, this will hit pretty weak. Oh man, of all the people, he only sealed Ed.
Did that help?
And with Ed being sealed, he won't counter, so I've got to get that cleansed off of him as soon as possible. Batiste does 2 attacks on his S1. I tell you, counter set Batiste is making gains here. Don't sleep on this unit. He's really good for this. So I'm thinking about this gold shield, but I'm going to wait on it. I might need it to get somebody through the next phase. I'm just going to S1 for some damage.
Let me show you the results of my
I'm going to S3 Ed here, mostly just to get the seal debuff off of him so he can start countering when he's debuffed again, because I'll need that to be able to strip the counterattack buff. So here we are into phase 5, and I need to get 3 debuffs on to the priest. With Batiste, this should be easy. Unfortunately, Batiste's S3's not up. I'll soul burn the S1 to guarantee that I go into the S2. There's 2 debuffs right there, burn and attack down. Let's see if Dingo can stick a defense break this time. Got the defense break, there's my 3 debuffs. Wow, I'm a little shook how good this team is, how well it's doing for what I consider just scraping the bottom of the barrel leftover units. See if I can get a blind. No blind, but this is going to hit very light because I've got the 3 debuffs.
I exist for my family.
I don't want to hit the priest or he'll counter, so now's a good time to use that S3. I'll go ahead and protect myself and Batiste. Now I want him to counter here because I'm hoping it debuffs Ed. He resisted. Ed resisted both debuffs. Good lord. He didn't resist that one though. There's equivalent exchange and strip the counter buff. So unfortunately I've got seal back on him again, but we made it past the difficult part.
Allow me to hear your name before I kill you.
Unfortunately, I think Batiste's days are numbered here. And that kills him. The boss is going to murder me anyway. There's the only reason I'm going to S3 Ed here is to get rid of the attack buff so he can do decent damage, because this fight is pretty much over.
Never give up.
Now is the time for flames.
And I'll do the S2 so I get a double hit. I got the defense break. Not bad. So that, as good as that team seemed, it only did about 900k damage, but it was a fun team. Good way to end the day. I've only got 6 provisions left. It takes 7 to attack the priest, so there's nothing left I can do today. Tomorrow I'll use my full burst of provisions to hit the priest as many times as possible, and then we'll all spread out for a nice guild group photo. I hope you enjoyed this Ancient Inheritance series. It was fun making it, and I hope it was helpful to everybody here. If you like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm going to start working on finishing the Abyss Challenge floors next, and I've got a Hall of Trials video that'll be coming out on Monday as well. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope your gear rolls great, and have a great time in Epic 7. Take care, everybody.